First home buyers have been priced out of the market. Is it hopeless to wait for a crash? Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian.Heise here, and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. Today, I'd like to talk about housing affordability. So grab your stein of coffee and let's have a look at this very sensitive and frustrating topic here in Australia. Now, I'm trying a little bit of a different format today. Some people in the comments have asked that rather than simply just read the articles verbatim, which, I have to do anyway to get a feel for it, I go and, give a bit more of my thoughts and opinions. So I'm trying a bit of a different format here, everyone, and, let me know what you think about it. Hang on, look at this. I'm playing with a red pen I can even write in. So there's 6 points we're going to look at. The first, is obviously the introduction, where I'll give an overview of what we're going to talk about. Then we'll go through and discuss first home buyers being priced out of the market, already priced out of the market before we even had the increase in house prices that we're seeing right now. Then we'll look at the latest house price data that has just most recently been released by CoreLogic and Domain for what it's worth, to give a bit of an understanding. Then I want to talk about government to the rescue, how the government is trying to come to the rescue to save us all from rising house prices, but, well, frankly, the consequences of their intervention into the market are exacerbating the problem. That's the fundamental argument I will make. When people advocate for more government intervention, more government stepping in to save us, you may feel good, you may be getting free money, but in the long run, we all pay the price. We're starting to see that now, okay? There have been interventions that started decades ago that now have manifested in this mess where generations can't even get into housing, where the luxuries of having one person working and one person staying at home to raise a family, it never used to be a luxury, everyone. That used to be normal. Now you're weird or wealthy. 5, we'll look at the calls for social housing, and this is going to become even more and more rampant as we move forward, and it's something that I think we need to counter and need to discuss, because social housing, I would advocate, is not the solution at all by any measure. And then, because you can be criticized, I am criticized, and many other YouTubers are criticized for just being doomers and just spreading negative news, which frankly gets people watching. If you do something positive, no one cares, no one watches. And I'm the same. I watch another YouTuber, a young guy in the States, and he just goes through terrible jobs, like terrible job postings, to warn people and teach them about it. And that's more interesting. But I want to put some solutions on the table, at least something we can walk away from this video with some actions that you can take to try and address these issues, even if it's a small, in small steps. I think we have access to more people, more media, and we need to adopt some of the policies of the activists on the more progressive, I'd call them regressive, side of politics to try and shift the public dialogue. My overall goal is to shift the Overton window. I would advocate for the Overton window shifting to a more central position, to one more individual liberty, individual responsibility, and not more authoritarian, socialistic state responsibility. And that's where I'd argue for that. And then finally, I will have my outro as I always do. Okay, so grab your stein of coffee, settle down, and make sure you let me know if you like this format. Okay, let's get started. So, first home buyers have already been priced out of the market. And this is the article that got my attention. Home prices are unaffordable for most first-time home buyers in Australia. Now, this article, and I think it's important when we're looking at the media, we need to look at the journalists behind it who's putting these forward, just to get a bit of an understanding of their perspective, because then that will shape what they're putting forward. Remember, this is journalism, this is not academia. Newspaper reports, these type of things, they're not even, we were discouraged from referring to them in our academic thesis at university because they were considered biased pieces of work. And we're starting to see that. So it's written by Sarah Sharples. She's been a freelance journalist a finance journalist with news.com for just 4 months, so she's new there. And she was a freelancer in London for 4 years. So she's a graduate of journalism and law. So that's the experience she brings to the table. I'm wondering if being a freelancer would have her more inclined to, individual liberty and business, perhaps, hopefully. I guess she's into the finance side of things, so that's more interesting. And you're seeing more and more articles that are appearing by her where she's discussing housing affordability. Maybe she's come home and she's realizing, I want a house. I'm just guessing there. So this is the article that got me interested. And I'll link to all of these at the end of the video. But there's a few things I've pulled out that I think we need to discuss. So let's go. We'll keep with the pen. So in grim news, 40% of first home buyers in Sydney and Hobart were priced out of the market even before the eye-watering increases in house values, new research has revealed. So earlier this month, ANZ economists warned house prices are tipped to soar by 17% this year in all our capital cities, in particular Sydney, forecast to jump double digits in 2021. And she's referring to CoreLogic up 6%. Now, we've seen this before, but we saw the opposite before. Remember when we first had this pandemic and everyone was warning about this recession, and you're getting all these people saying, oh, housing is going to drop by 40%. The RBA modeled a 40% drop, what impact it'll be. The banks were modeling up to 30% drops. They were feeding it out to the media. People were jumping onto it and talking about it. So was I. And you look at it and you think, okay, the question is, was that done with purpose to influence our political leaders to intervene in the market drastically? Is that just a tinfoil hat argument? Perhaps. So, but here we go, 40% of first home buyers in Sydney and Hobart. And there's a few other cities. We'll have a look at new research that's come out that shows housing affordability in different cities. So, but research released by the National Housing Finance and Investment Corporation. Have you heard of that, guys? Let me know in the comments if you're familiar with that. Shows affordability issues have been growing for decades, revealing Aussie first home buyers never had a chance. So she's saying first home buyers never had a chance to get into the market. It's been going on for decades, everyone. And we've got that, National Housing Finance and Investment Corporation. That's interesting. Let's have a look at them. So this is the National Housing and or NHFIC. Kind of reminds me of the Potato Board in Western Australia, everyone. I'm always skeptical of these government corporations. Because come on. It's a government corporation. They do the first home loan deposit scheme. They're an affordable housing bond aggregator. They've got the National Housing Infrastructure Facility, and they're a housing research portal. So they have some research and information that we're going to draw upon for this this episode that I think is valuable there, that research is coming out. But there are other organizations that also provide other additional research. And the last time I checked, they made a $10 million loss. It's taxpayer money going to an organization like this. Is the research worth it? Just saying. I mean, they do other interventions and fund public housing and those type of things. But I've got some criticisms of that moving forward. Nevertheless, let's have a look at this here. Now, this is a Lorenzo curve, what we're looking at. This is the potential first home buyers affordability. This is from their latest research or report that they put out in 2020. This chart graphically shows affordability for potential first home buyers across Australia's major city, excluding Canberra and Darwin because they didn't have the data there. We assume the potential first home buyers are the cohort of renters aged 24 to 39. Affordable is deemed to be a mortgage repayments equating to 30% or less of the household disposable income. Now we'll have a look at an alternative to this 30%. Now you know what? I'm gonna go laser pointer. I remember how Electra shone a laser in my eye at university. It was fun. No, it wasn't. So we've got here. Now this is like the horizontal, or this curve here, the straight line. If you're above it, that means housing is more affordable. Down here we have the different quartiles of income, percentage share of the income. So if you're in the bottom 20% of income, we scroll up here to, you know what, I'm going to do it with a pen. We go up here to Brisbane. That is the percentage of houses that are deemed affordable to you, 40%. So for the bottom 20%, 40% of houses are, or from 20%, if you're in the 20% bracket, 40%. And as you go further down, even less is. So down here, let's say probably about 10%. Then you have 20% of housing is affordable there. That's for Brisbane. Brisbane is one of the most affordable cities. We have a look at Adelaide. It's too expensive. It's less affordable down here. Look at Greater Melbourne, less affordable. Nothing actually is even affordable. Look at, remember, and their affordable is 30% of your household income. Look at Sydney, guys. I mean, that's not surprising at all. In the blue line here, wait, I got to turn on the laser. In the blue line here, you can see Sydney. Look at that. And then over here we have Greater Hobart. What is going on in Hobart, everyone? Housing is just getting even less and less affordable there. So Brisbane, we're more affordable. You can still get affordable housing. You can get a decent job in Brisbane, you know, comparable to Melbourne or Sydney with what industries you can work in. There's some, you know, there are a few big name companies that are headquartered here in Brisbane, just to show the complexity of our economy. And you can get affordable housing. The best is, you know, I think about 60%, 65%. You get over here, you know, 65. So if you're hitting 60% income quartile up here, boom, you're 65% of the stock on the market is considered affordable to you. But you know what happens, everyone? First, Sydney and Melbourne become less affordable, and everyone sees Brisbane and starts jumping in here. But, I mean, there you go. So Brisbane and Perth somewhat, if you're at 40% to what, nearly 60% of income. Below that, nothing's affordable pretty much. And here we have it for private rental affordability. So this chart graphically shows the private rental affordability across Australia's major cities, excluding Canberra and Darwin once again. The Lorenz curve graphs the proportion of rental properties available for different income levels. Affordable is deemed to be rental payments equating 30% or less of the household disposable income. Now here's the problem, everyone, because you've got people who are saving a deposit while renting. So they're you know, affordable rental is considered 30% of your income. Then if you want to save for your house deposit, it's going to take you forever to squirrel something away. Maybe that would be an argument for, rather than going, you know, because there'll be another video we'll look at, example after example of people frustrated that they can't get into property with huge deposits, you know, 200,000, 175,000. But then they're looking at property worth $1 million. If you have 175, 150,000, you should be looking at something around 400 grand. And then, if you want something bigger, jump in, save up, get a capital growth. Don't go for your forever. I hate the term forever home. I'm probably in a forever home now, honestly, but it's a dump. I'm literally tearing down walls. I've got to get builder's plastic to cover asbestos and take it to the tip. It's going to be my forever home, because by the time I've got it finished, I'll probably be 45. And then I won't be bothered. You never know, I may retire, and honestly, I'd probably just keep it for the kids or rent it out. Anyway, but the point is, people are looking for these forever homes that are already finished, not that they have to work on. So they're going so far into debt. It seems like a sign that our financial literacy is even worse than I anticipated. So we can see here, Greater Perth apparently is more affordable. And now this is from the 30th of the 6th, 2020, so it's out of date. This chart is out of date right now, guys, because Perth is becoming very unaffordable. People are struggling to get rental accommodation here, but it just shows you as well, just issues with affordability. Now, this is going to change because more and more apartment stock is going to become available. And then maybe people might consider renting in those. I mean, I would honestly, if you're going to, I'd rather rent in an apartment than buy in an apartment dirt cheap, because then, well, you're not taking on all of the risk. Maybe even rent in one before you buy in the bloody apartment, so you can get a feeling for the building and really walk around and try and find all those defects and issues. So, now, I want to bring you back to this topic here about the 30% of mortgage repayments, because there's an alternative argument for it. I'm going to have a shot of coffee, because I know you've got Martin North always critical of mortgage stress and how mortgage stress is getting worse. There are a few other arguments to put forward, but 30% is kind of a rule of thumb. I'd argue some people have actually gotten used to having to save a lot more. I mean, if you're paying 30% on rent and then you're trying to save another 10, 15%, and then all of a sudden you get into a mortgage that's only, you're at 30%, that might be a discount. Think about it. It might be cheaper. You might have more disposable income. So this is from the Australian Housing and Urban Research Institute. Now, they're an independent research network with a not-for-profit management, and I'll go back to my laser, management company, AHURI. Their goals are the alignment of public, private, and not-for-profit sector investment to optimize outcomes and value. So an integrated approach to planning, productive, sustainable, and livable urban environments, healthy, cohesive, and connected communities and places, affordable and secure housing for all Australians. So these goals sound reasonable. No one could have any issue with those. And that's the problem. A lot of these organizations have quite good sounding goals. But this is what I wanted to talk about, housing affordability stress. So unlike the previous two categories, that's where they're talking about mortgage stress and that. Housing affordability stress, HAS, does have a recognized definition. When households in the bottom 40% of income distribution pay more than 30% of their gross income on mortgage or rent payments, housing affordability payments. Okay, so that's the issue there. That's what they're defining it as. So if we jump back here, we can see, so 40%, look at all these people paying more than, having to pay more than 30%. Even 60% have to pay more than 30%. Wouldn't that be a definition of housing affordability stress, everyone? Housing affordability stress is used in academic research as a proxy measure for unaffordability to indicate low-income households that are spending more on housing than they can afford and therefore don't have enough to pay for food, heating, education, medical costs, or be able to live close enough to amenities such as transportation to work. Although HAS, housing affordability stress, applies to both lower income home buyers and renter households, in reality, it has more relevance for policymakers when considering households who are renting. As in the case with rental stress, when these households pay more in rent, it isn't usually a choice, but it's because rents have risen in areas where households are already being lived in, or because they need to live in a specific high rent area to access work or to be close to essentials, school, and medical facilities. So that's an interesting take on it. That's why an argument one could make that the definition of mortgage stress or housing affordability stress is more of an issue for people renting than for people in mortgages. So using it as a measure to forecast doom and gloom in the housing sector, we can debate that perhaps. Because honestly, I've seen it, all these high levels of mortgage stress, but it's different when it's your house. It's different when it's your house. You'll sacrifice to keep it. So I thought that was interesting. So this is the latest housing data. I'm just jumping back here. Yes, so first home buyers priced out of the market. And we'll jump here to the latest housing data. So here we have it from CoreLogic, everyone. Now this is the, daily house value index. I don't understand how they can actually measure these house values on a daily index. It takes months to settle a house. It takes months to sell. Just going through the paperwork is a pain. But apparently they can determine the value of houses on a daily basis. Okay? You tell me if you believe that's accurate or if it's fantasy. We'll have to see. But this is just from the 31st of March. So, Sydney, we'll go for houses. Year-on-year change is up 7.72% on their index. And here we have Melbourne up 0.36. So Melbourne ain't doing too well. Brisbane, including the Gold Coast, up 9.07, which, my house hasn't gone up that much. And I live in that area. That's the problem also with looking at these big, these indices for entire cities, because the value of your house is affected by the last one up the street. So if you're in an area that perhaps is more dependent on JobKeeper, your property is going to be hit differently to others. Now I've got a chart here that I will bring up. This is showing unit price growth around Sydney, and you can see the different areas that had different levels of growth. It's not uniform. We're not all created equally. Not in life, not in housing, guys. Uh-oh, that's politically incorrect these days, isn't it? Oh, well. What do we have here? Adelaide up 9.15%. First recession in 28 years, everyone. Remember that. When we look at how the government is coming to the rescue and intervening in the market. You've got Perth up 6.3%. 5.7% are all the capital cities. And then we've got Brisbane, without the Gold Coast, 7.9. What's 16? 16 point... What? Darwin, 16%. Canberra, 13.8%. Hobart, 12%. There you go. And then they've got a daily, guys. This is the daily one. This is from yesterday. How? You tell me. It seems insane. It just seems utterly insane to me. But, okay, they can do it. They can do it. So, now, this is from Domain. This is the December quarter 2020 houses. So, I thought we'd have a look. The average house price in Sydney is 1.2 million from December. It's gone down a little bit, went up again. Melbourne, 900,000 with 36 for change. Brisbane, 616. Adelaide, 574,000. Canberra's 855. Perth, 563. Hobart, 564. Darwin, 533. So the national average house price is 852,000, up 5.8% year on year. That was December. We had our first recession in 28 years in December in 2020. Okay? So the government has intervened. They've juiced the market. And here's an example from the paper from yesterday. Now, you'd almost hope this would be April Fool's. Melbourne's median house price, this isn't average, this is median, is up 60,000 since the beginning of the year. There you go. So, number 4, government to the rescue. How has government come to the rescue? We've talked about the fact that we had our first recession in 28 years. This was brought upon by government interventions into the economy to restrict commerce, movement, individual liberty in hopes of mitigating the spread of the virus. That's what has caused this. Okay, remember that. It's the government intervention that has caused this. And I've broken it up into a few different ways that they've done this in 3 ways. Yeah, 3 ways, 3 general ways. And the first one is keeping zombie companies alive. So trading while insolvent provisions, and now we're expecting about 5,000 insolvencies coming from this. And you can see in the background of this image, that is showing the companies entering external administration. Notice how the trend has been going down, how it crashed down, everyone. It crashed down here. And it's slowly starting to climb back up again. Okay? If we just got to this area here, which is the average, the normal level, look at the difference. We're sitting about 1,000, you'd be at 2,000, another 1,000 companies entering external administration a quarter. Just for that. And that's not even counting a recession. We didn't have a recession here. This is all good, happy times. All of this is all happy times. This is all good. Economy's going fantastic. So just returning to normal is going to be painful. There's going to be some businesses that are not viable, probably through no fault of their own. And remember, the government doesn't actually earn any money. Government just redistributes money from one group to another through force, under threat of incarceration, under threat of removing your liberties. We were looking last year at companies that were going bankrupt. Number 1 was a dodgy, payday lender type of firm that was just chasing, or debt collector, was chasing after people and taking them all to court. Number 2 was everyone's favorite, ATO, guys, sending people bankrupt. And trading while insolvent, that scared me more than anything, probably as a small business owner. Just because, well, I know what it's like to not get paid. I know what it's like to not get paid on time, to have lots of invoices outstanding, lots of money just sitting there and it just not appearing. You know, multi-millionaires in, people's heroes in the media not paying me on time. It's awesome. And you work through the night for them. So that's why, I've become a little bit of a cynical bastard. And then the next one is JobKeeper. JobKeeper is keeping some zombie companies alive. I can understand why the government's doing it, to reduce the burden on the Centrelink and welfare, and to hopefully maintain those relationships, so that some of the businesses will get through this, will be able to keep those people working. So I know it's kicking the can down the road, guys, but what would you rather? Just put them all on the Centrelink, or actually have a chance of having those businesses coming off? There's a question for you. But it has to end. It can't keep going on forever, because there's some businesses that, sadly, are going to have to just close. There are going to be some hard calls people are going to have to make. I know it sounds harsh, but it's reality, guys. I mean, here we have on this chart, and I will change my pen color. Let's change the pen color here. Look at this fantastic operation I have here. This is where we're sitting at with regards to external company administrations at the moment. Well, the last time I checked, we're back above the average. Now, that's because our average took a fall here, but, you know, we're going back up again. We were about 50% before I did this chart, before we had this change. Now we're climbing back up. JobKeeper. This is quite concerning. The number of people employed that were on JobKeeper. Yet here, nearly 9% in Victoria. 6.84% in Queensland, guys. So a lot of businesses. All our coast here, you can look at the bankruptcy data. It's looking very tough up here, up the Queensland coast. And the fact that our Premier here instigates lockdowns, and then that results in border closures, that's just going to cause problems for tourism. I feel sorry for anyone who's in a business like that now, because that's part of the risk now of doing business. And okay, maybe 1 or 2 years' time, that's all over. Then there are going to be idiots out there calling for the same number of lockdowns every time someone, you know, I don't know, goes to the toilet with diarrhea. Uh-oh, we better lock down the city. You think I'm being facetious? Maybe I am, but sadly, there are people out there that love being ruled over. I mean, look at it out there. So, how else is the government coming to the rescue? That's the first method, as we saw, everyone, was keeping zombie companies alive. And then the next one is what I call juicing the market, everyone. And, well, the RBA cash rate. You can see in the chart back here, you probably can't see it. Well, down here, that's 0% there. My photograph is covering it. But, you know, I updated this chart when it went from 0.1 to 0%, and it was hardly anything. Okay, so the RBA are doing everything they can to make borrowing affordable. They're trying to push money towards businesses, so they borrow. Government are guaranteeing some of those loans too. So they're juicing the market, everyone. The RBA. 3% used to be considered an emergency rate. I looked at housing affordability presentations from years ago. 3% was considered emergency lows. Now, what would happen if we went up to 3%? You know, if your mortgage doubled, your interest rate doubled. I mean, I looked at my mortgage, today? The interest I'm paying is nothing a month, hardly anything. And if it doubled, okay, I'll be fine. But I didn't borrow $1 million to buy my forever home. Then they also did Home Builder, everyone. And we'll look at we can see here building approvals. Look at how they skyrocketed. We've discussed this in previous episodes. There will be another jump with the end of March with the data. I guarantee you it'll go up again, simply because, and I'll turn off that icon, simply because it's the end of the free money. So whenever the government gives out free money, people will chase it. And that's sensible. They want it. But the problem is it overheats the market, everyone. And if it overheats the market, you can have a lot of construction issues manifest too, a lot of corner cutting, a lot of people trying to do things quick. We saw back in the day, this is Foreign Investment Review Board data, looking at the number of building approvals for foreign investors. Look at that, 14, 15, 16, 17 there. Just about there. It peaked at nearly 100%. And a big portion of that was going into Sydney. And this is a quote from Matt Berry. In 2016, 67% of our GDP growth came from Sydney and Melbourne. Of that growth, an area between Sydney CBD and Macquarie Park, 24% of the entire growth in 2016. That overheated the market, everyone. And we saw that manifest in what I call the triangle of fail. And I might bring that up if it comes up. And, well, what I call the triangle of fail is just a series of housing apartment developments that have had issues all along. Here we go. Come on, load up. Here. And nope, we don't want to look at mines at the moment. Construction issues. We'll turn off these mines. Construction issues. We zoom in here. You know, Sugar Cube apartments. Mascot Tower apartments, the Zetland apartments, all through here. Boom, boom, boom. A lot of overheating in apartment construction in Sydney. So I'm shocked that people are jumping into them. But that's another thing to be wary of if we get overheating in the market. Now, we're already seeing the cost of some building materials going up. So, we've got the first home buyer grants, now at state level, up to $88,000 when you combine the federal and state grants, discounts, handouts, stamp duty, provision, money back, all this stuff. It's insane. You'd be stupid in thinking that isn't juicing up the market, that isn't driving people in there. People are desperate to get into housing. We're seeing article after article of people exhausted, looking, wanting to get in. Oh, I forgot to add, you know what? I will add this. Can I do it? Wait. And I've forgotten one, actually, and I will just do a sneaky... Oops, I'm drawing on that. No. I'm going to add that into here as I do my presentation. Super withdrawals. Guys, you can't forget that. Because that, well, we saw people who were taking that as their deposit. Some were foolishly thinking that would be enough. They were combining that with their redundancy and then disappointed that they couldn't get into the housing market. So, what else do we have? We also have, everyone, the 5% government loan guarantees. Where the government is guaranteeing up to 10,000 loans and then another $10,000 loans where you only need 5% deposit. And that is eerily quite similar to what happened in the United States with regards to their housing market, where it just snowballed, where the government was just giving loans. The banks were giving loans out to everyone because they didn't care, because the government was going to guarantee it. Now, if you want to see the end game of that, well, look at the US housing market, but really look at the education sector over in the US, where the government is guaranteeing all the loans. You can't even bankrupt out of those loans. It is horrific. They're enslaving their citizens there into debt. Then we also have negative gearing, which is an old one, which we can't forget, because it incentivizes people to invest in properties. People invest in them to offset their taxes. We pay a lot of taxes in this country. How many people you talk to that are frustrated that they pay so much tax, they just buy a property and use it to write it off? I'll get the capital gains. Win-win. The problem is that increases the demand for those properties, which drives up the cost for those properties, which makes them less affordable to first-home buyers. And there's more competition, more people will pay rent for them. So we can see here, this chart is showing occupations most likely to negative gear. Now, negative gearing is not just for the rich and famous, everyone. Everyone does it. You've got police here, building or engineering technicians, engineering managers, air transport professionals, psychiatrists, mining engineers, school principals, defense force people, commissioned officers, management. You've got a whole range of people that are doing it, guys. And then if we look at it here, we can see at the income level. This is people who negatively gear in each tax bracket. There you go. So, what's the average? The average wage on we'll look at the ABS, is, what are we seeing here? $1,700 a week, and that's blown up by mining. 1,700 times 52 is 88,000, guys. And we do about 1,100 times 52, that's for retail, 57,000. So if we jump back here, we can see that you've got people at that level. A big chunk of them are negative gearing. 10% of them are negative gearing, everyone. So that is juicing up the market. It's been a long-term problem. This is where I was saying that things which people argue have good consequences or done for good reasons, people say, oh, we need to have negative gearing because it provides cheap housing. Because people, otherwise, if they can't negative gear it, they'll up the rent. But you also have to understand, if you can't negative gear, the demand for those investment-grade properties will drop. So then there'll be more available for first-home buyers. This is where the government is intervening in the market. This is a completely artificial intervention in the market. Where do we want it to continue? So then the third reason I call is reducing the housing supply. And I'd say two reasons are for that primarily. One is mortgage holidays, and the other is uncertainty and the saving rate. We can see here in the background image, this is the saving rate that we have, personal savings. It has skyrocketed. Now, for one, that's money just flowing into the market, people getting extra stimulus, people getting free government money. The problem with that is eventually you've got to have the Cantillon effect, where the relative prices result from a change in money supply because of the money going into the economy as a specific injection point. I would argue a lot of that is manifesting in property because that's what everyone is jumping into because that's the Australian way and that's adding to the bubble. But I'd also say that one could argue that is a sign that some people are uncertain and are saving and are just being cautious because, well, we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what the future will hold. And we also have the mortgage holidays, everyone. And both of these things are you're not going to be jumping around, selling your house, buying another one if you're uncertain about the future. You're more likely to stay put, I would say. Mortgage holidays. It's going to reduce the need for people to have forced sales. Even until September this year, Commonwealth Bank said they're not going to force people to have forced sales. Till September, guys. Okay? I know they are tapping on the shoulders of some people already, giving them a push in that direction, but not quite yet. Not quite yet. So that's also reducing the supply. How many people in investment properties or owner-occupiers that maybe have borrowed too much, can't make ends meet, but are able to keep it going just with hopium because of the mortgage holidays? We can see here, there you go, there's the billions of dollars of loans subject to mortgage deferrals. Share of total loans on the right-hand side, and it peaked at just over 10%, and total loan deferrals on the left-hand side, 250 billion over. And it's going back down now. So we may start to see those manifest in the market, everyone. And here we have the savings rates. So we've had a look at, the government to the rescue. And it was, as I said, keeping zombie companies alive, juicing the market, and reducing housing supply. I'd say those are the three things that have come about. Some of them are old problems. Some of them are new problems. Particularly because, we've had our first recession, everyone. Everyone was predicting housing prices would correct. And people are waiting. They're hoping for housing prices. They're sitting here stressed, hoping housing prices will correct. The question, is it hopeless to wait because of the government intervention? Now, we're starting to see more and more calls for social housing. We're starting to see it in every article. Whenever there's any criticism about home builder. And remember, home builder, it has increased. I'll turn off my logo again. It has increased building approvals significantly, everyone. It's screamed up. Now, people are saying, we should be spending that money on social housing. And I suspect I'm the only architect who would publicly argue against that in all of this country, to be honest. So many, I see it on LinkedIn, so many architects are so proud of their luxurious, high-quality social housing, everyone. You don't need that. It's just bare emergency shelter, really. Because for every 15 grand the government pumps into this, they're getting a minimum 150,000 additional spending. I think, it would have been maybe 25 grand back or 30 grand. We looked at the grant, but we're doing owner builder, so I don't want to do it. I can't do it. So you're getting more value for your money. The tax burden that future generations are taking. Well, hell, actually, no, think about it. You spend 150 grand to get $15,000. You spend that on GST. They're pretty much giving you GST back, everyone, to get economic activity there. That's the circle of life. You won't get that with anything you spend on social housing. What you spend on social housing is only what you invest in social housing. And social housing is more expensive. So it's not the solution, everyone. We don't want to be living in a country where everyone is in social housing. You're going to see more and more calls of that. It's going to be a political issue because there are campaigns about it. And we'll have a look at this one here. Now, Everybody's Home. They released a media release yesterday calling for more housing. And this is a media campaign where the whole series of organizations have come together and they all have vested interest with regards to social housing. So they're calling for 500,000 social and affordable homes by 2026, everyone. And they want support for first home buyers. Sounds good. Sounds great, doesn't it? But you've got to remember, The government doesn't get money out of thin air. It doesn't magic away from nowhere. It takes money from other people. Every dollar put into social housing is a dollar taken away from someone that they could use to buy their own house. You know, they're taking money off you, then giving you a portion of it back in social housing, and you're meant to be grateful for that. They're disrupting the entire market economy by intervening in the market to artificially prop up some sectors. Think about all the tax deductions that investors are getting. All the people that are going to here into, where is it? You know, all these different first home buyers that are negative, or no, sorry, investors that are negative gearing, that are essentially writing off their tax by buying property. You know, all the police officers, all the engineering technicians, all the psychiatrists and school principals. You know, so it's all these people. It's interesting how there are more people on less than 18,200 than there are from 18 to 37,000 that are negative gearing. I wonder how many of those are living at home. So you've got to understand the government money that it spends on social housing is other people's money, other people's taxes that are taken off them under duress and are deployed to this. Now, we don't all want to live in social housing. I would argue that people need to work for something to appreciate it. When that which is given isn't appreciated as that which is worked for. And these are the organizations that are advocating for this, everyone. Sure, some very good organizations. They all sound nice and friendly. But still, you've got to see they've got a vested interest in this industry. What if rather than having, you know, a nation of handouts and welfare and socialism, we pushed for a nation of individual liberty, individual responsibility, and an education system that actually taught people financial literacy, and where, you know, having responsibility for your own life, that is what is praised for. That is what is held up to esteem. We can have a look at all the different, it just goes on, all the organizations here which are supporting this. Now, let's have a look here. This is their plan for more social and affordable housing. So the federal government needs to develop a coherent national housing strategy that includes new capital investment to generate 300,000 new social and Aboriginal housing properties, a new tax incentive or direct subsidy to leverage super fund and other private sector investments in 200,000 low-cost rental properties for low and middle income earners. Probably if you're their special civil servants, you get access to these properties. Police officers and that such. You know, all those people that were investing in negative gearing properties. So, I mean, here we go, the Aboriginal housing. That is an issue. That is a serious issue here. Look at bridging the gap. It's failed again and again. Throwing more money at these communities, more social programs, more bureaucrats, it's not working. It won't work. They've got a national housing strategy to meet Australia's identified shortfall of 500,000 social and affordable homes. This organisation is calling for more government intervention, and the danger is that this organisation isn't alone. You're finding they're getting more and more media exposure. It is appearing in every article. They're getting out there and they're talking about it, and the concern is the collective consciousness of the populace will push for this, and that will drive us to even more of a socialist, interventionist government. I would advocate that we pull back, that the government reduces the red tape and burden on housing, makes land more easily accessible, gets rid of some of the, overheads that they have on construction, maybe some of the land sizes, and we'll look at that in other videos. And this is I like this plan, what they're having here, and I'll change my pen color again. I like this suggestion here. A plan to support first home buyers. Now they get it half right, I would say. They want to reset the tax system. By resetting the tax system around housing, governments can redress the housing balance and make it work properly for people who are buying a home, not just an investment portfolio. What I would advocate for is, you know, the old investment line or the business line, pay yourself first. People need to be able to pay themselves first before they pay for the government, before they pay their taxes. You know, Clive Palmer, he had one policy he put forward on the table that I think needs to be called out as being very good, and others have as well, is allowing people to write off the interest costs on their first home or on their principal residence. Pay yourself first before you pay the state. Charity begins at home. ensure that your own family is housed and taken care of before you are forced to give money to the government so they can redistribute it to often people that may be in a better situation than you. They want to reduce negative gearing and capital gains tax exemptions to reset housing taxation to deliver fairer outcomes. And here they want to use the billions the government would save by removing the tax breaks to encourage investment in the social and affordable housing Australia needs. So they want to get rid of the tax deductions that people have and just pump it into social housing. They want to prioritize first home buyers over property speculators by resetting the tax system. Now, I agree that there needs to be a reset. And probably this website was from 2018. The organization is still going because they released a press release yesterday. But reset probably is not it's the Schwabian term we don't want to be using at the moment. But still, you know what I mean. I would argue we reduce those mechanisms for people to negative gear and we allow that to first home buyers, perhaps. What do you reckon? Or just increase the tax-free threshold. Let's put up to 100 grand. Just reduce state services till we get to that point. Why not? If you want more money, earn it. So we've had a look at just the calls for social housing. This is just one organization or one media campaign by all of these different organizations, guys. And you'll see it more and more in the media. And that's what I'm concerned about, that will be the solution. It's not the solution. We don't want people living in government housing. We don't want people dependent on the state. You want people who are independent, who are house proud, who work for what they have, earn it. Then they're less likely to vote for government that takes away their rights. Then they're less likely to vote for government that intervenes in their lives. We need to shift the Overton window, and this is just as important a part of this dialogue as any of the other, the culture war or any of the other issues. So some solutions, guys. Some solutions. So I don't want to just, have all, negativity and issues here. I want to start to put at least some solutions, even just small, that we can walk away with from these videos. So I would advocate, and I have many times before, is to become politically active, everyone. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to put some effort in. We saw it with the cash ban. That was the first time some people got politically active. And I made this PowerPoint, so I looked at the presentation I gave about the cash ban, seeing the empty House of Representatives. You need to change the dialogue at every level of politics, from local all the way up. And by local, I mean your city council. Okay, because they have a big impact on housing costs. There's a huge bloody impact on it. Contact your local member of council. Here's one suggestion. And ask what they have been doing to reduce the cost of housing. And I'd be specific. So, what have you done to reduce headworks charges on new properties or people splitting up their land? Headworks, it's another cost you pay when you split off a block and connect it to the city, which is a complete joke. You can have a big block, cut off a little 400-meter block at the front to sell, and have to pay $40,000 to the council. Because, that little run of sewer, apparently that's going to be $40,000 additional load on the sewer system or the park usage, even though the person in that house will be paying rates and other costs. That's a cost. That drives up housing. You're going to see more and more people advocating for the abolition of stamp duty, but then they want to replace it with a land tax. They want to replace one tax with another tax. What we need to do is we need to advocate for a reduction in the size of government so people are have more control over their own finances, and then that will make housing more affordable. Contact your state member. Ask what they've been doing at a state level to reduce red tape. All the red tape that you have to go through, all the referral agencies that you have to contact. And we'll do more detailed videos about these topics. Contact your federal member. Do the same thing. Contact minor parties, senators, candidates. Tell them you'd support them if they were publicly advocating for reduced government intervention into the market or into housing. And use social media. I know it sucks. I know there are a bunch of idiots on it, but use it to get the dialogue in public. You'll have more chance of responding. This is what the leftists do. This is what the activists do. I know most of them, they don't have a job, but it doesn't take long to do this. And if you have enough people doing it, it can work. Another thing I'd encourage you to do is to share your activity, either on Facebook groups. Join the HeiseSays Discord, everyone. I've just shared a response I received from Ipswich City Council, in which I contacted them expressing my encouragement for them to extend extend the time period that a development can go ahead, as a counterpoint to the Greens councillor that was pushing for it to get kiboshed. The Greens councillor in a suburb with houses worth over $1 million, where there the houses will be about 400,000. Share your activities. Let people know what you're doing. When you realize you're not alone, that's more of a chance to get people involved and to try and make a shift. I know it may seem like it's pointless. I know it may be frustrating, but it's the small things that build upon one to the other. If we're going to have any chance of Australia actually having affordable housing for all of the country, we need to make some systematic changes to it. The biggest threat now is this creeping socialism here in Australia. That's a big threat to our freedoms, everyone. It's going to be a big threat to our housing costs. Housing won't get cheaper in a socialist country, everyone. Don't kid yourself. The quality just goes down. And if you've seen just recent events, how happy people were to, well, there's very little public criticism of any of the interventions the government's doing into the economy right now to restrict this illness. We need to shift the Overton window. So there we have it, everyone. My presentation on first home buyers already priced out of the market. Is it hopeless to wait for a crash? That's the question I put to you to finish. Is it hopeless, guys? Are you sitting there waiting for a crash and expecting it? Will it crash, but will the purchasing power of your money decrease that it won't make a difference? What other things? We've seen where the government has juiced up the market. Everyone, they've come to the rescue. They're keeping zombie companies alive, letting people trade while insolvent. They're handing out money to nearly 9% of businesses in some areas with JobKeeper. You've got them juicing the market with a cash rate at 0.1%. Home builder, first home buyer grant, super withdrawals, negative gearing, 5% government loans. You've got mortgage holidays and uncertainty driving people to save. And just think, we've got an election year coming up, guys. What could that mean moving forward? So, thank you all, everyone, for watching this video. Please let me know your thoughts and opinions. Do you enjoy this format? Let me know, because I might make some more like it. If you're a fan of the channel and want to support the content I create here, there are a few ways you can support us. You can join us on YouTube or Patreon. You can support us using our affiliate links from Amazon, eBay, Independent Reserve, or AussieBroadband. Take care, everyone. Oh, and don't forget Gold Pass as well, or PayPal. Take care, everyone. Have a great day, and I will see you all next time. Bye for now.